It is currently convention season, and with convention season comes a whole bunch of cosplayers who are eagerly and or nervously putting together their last minute pieces for their costume for whatever Comic-Con events they're planning on attending. Now, some people just do it for fun. I know plenty of people, myself included in the past at least, who just like to dress up as characters that we enjoy for the fun of it. We're not super serious. It doesn't have to look absolutely perfect. It can be stuff that we picked up from our closet. Not a big deal. But for many people these days, they are doing it with intent to enter the cosplay contests. And when it comes to cosplay contests, something that I've noticed is that to a certain degree, screen accuracy is extremely important for these people. You don't have to 100% get the costume exactly right, because some people do want to look exactly as the character does, and other ones want to kind of make it their own. A good example of this is I met a girl once at one of my conventions who was dressed as the newer Wonder Woman, and she had made the entire uniform out of dragon scales, those like aluminum brushed dragon scales. It was absolutely insane. She got like second place and definitely deserved at least that, if not higher. So the colors were the same. You could tell it was based off of the newer movie, but obviously in the movie it's not made of dragon scales. That's what I kind of mean, but it was still mostly screen accurate in like how the boots looked and everything like that, and all the detailing and stuff. Now, unfortunately, screen accuracy does come with a bit of trouble when it comes to the disabled community. What I'm talking about today is people who are not disabled, who are cosplaying as characters who are. Now, I do think it's good that people are enjoying disabled characters more these days. They're respecting them for being disabled characters and they want to dress as them. That's wonderful. That helps with representation. When big studios see that there is a demand for disabled characters, they're more likely to add them to movies and TV shows in the future. So it's very good. It's very good that you guys want to dress up as them. I'm definitely not saying to stop. The problem comes in when a non-disabled person is cosplaying as a disabled character and it accidentally becomes an absolute mockery of that part of the disabled community. So let me walk you through a little example scenario. Say that you are not a disabled person and you want to cosplay as Barbara Gordon specifically after she becomes Oracle because you just love Oracle, you think she's such a cool character and you can't wait to dress as her. Well, most people who know anything about the Batman franchise know that Barbara Gordon's costume or her uniform is very distinct. DC Comics did an amazing job making sure that all of their characters looked very individual but also very cohesive, and they have very easily identifiable costumes. Even if you're not super familiar with the character, you can easily say, oh, that's Batgirl, or that's the Riddler, or that's, whatever. So you get your whole costume done, it looks amazing, you're like, oh yeah, people are going to be able to tell from a mile away that I'm supposed to be Barbara Gordon, I'm so excited. And then you go on Craigslist and you buy somebody's used $20 wheelchair and you attend conventions with it. That's not okay. If you do not need that wheelchair in your day-to-day life, you should not be using it for the purposes of a screen-accurate cosplay, and there's a few reasons for this. It is extremely offensive to do something like that because you do not need that. You are enjoying the benefits, whether it's that you win the cosplay contest or you get complimented nonstop or you end up in one of those cosplay magazines or something. You are enjoying the benefits of looking like Barbara Gordon, but you don't have to go through any of the struggles that a person who has to live life in a wheelchair has to go through. You don't have to go through the inaccessibility of the world. The fact that even if you do your homework and you call ahead and make sure everywhere you and your friends or family or whoever are going tonight is wheelchair accessible, chances are the people who tell you it is may not understand everything that goes in line with being accessible, and maybe there's no stairs, but the doorway isn't wide enough to accommodate your wheelchair. Or once you get inside, yes, you got through the door, but the tables are too close together and you can't get through, and now everyone's dinner is interrupted so you can get through. And you feel like a jerk because you ruined someone's birthday dinner or something. Or they're like, oh yeah, we have an elevator, that's no problem. So you get there only to find out you have to go all the way down the street and loop around to get behind the building where all the dumpsters are. You don't have to deal with the endless medical bills and being shuffled from specialist to specialist that a lot of people in a wheelchair have to deal with all the time. The fact that, nope, I can't afford to go and have fun this month again because I have to go once more to a doctor's appointment. And there's a list of struggles that come with doctors when you're disabled. Let me tell you, that's for a whole other video. But you don't have to deal with people staring at you in public because you're in a wheelchair. Yes, even grown adults do that on a regular basis. You don't have to deal with complete strangers noticing you're in a wheelchair and deciding it is appropriate to ask you very personal questions about your medical history. It's one of those, like, if you wouldn't do it to just a regular non-disabled person walking down the street, if you wouldn't just stop a random stranger and say, hey, when was your last doctor appointment? What did you go in for? Don't do it to a person that's disabled either. It's wildly inappropriate. If that person is comfortable telling you about their diagnosis, they will. Otherwise, zip it. So hopefully with that example scenario, you can understand better why this is inappropriate. So you might be wondering, well, I won't be as accurate anymore, so will I be docked points, or will people know that I'm Barbara Gordon if I don't have the wheelchair along with me? And to that, I answer a couple of things. One, if you're entering a cosplay contest that expects you to use a mobility device or any other assistive device that you do not personally need, you shouldn't want to compete in that competition. That is an ableist competition that is so harmful. It's so disgusting. You should just call it a wash and not even try. That's awful. Luckily, I've never run into one quite like that. I'm sure that they exist. I'm sure there's been some judge someplace that was a jerk like that. Jerks are everywhere. It happens. But for the most part, they don't expect you to be absolutely accurate. As long as they can tell who you are and the craftsmanship of the cosplay is good, you're gonna be more than fine. The other thing I have to say to you, and there's not really a way to say this without sounding at least vaguely insulting, so you'll have to forgive me for that, but if your cosplay of a character cannot be identified without a mobility aid or another disability adaptive device, you either chose way too obscure a character and no one would have known regardless who you were supposed to be, or you're just not that good at making cosplays. Sorry to break it to you, but you're just not that good at making cosplays. And I want to make sure you understand, this does not only extend to disabled characters who use wheelchairs, canes, and crutches. This extends to a vast variety of disabilities. If you decide that you're doing a group cosplay and you're going as all the guys from the Big Bang Theory and you get Sheldon Cooper, most people understand that character is autistic. He has plenty of fun little catchphrases you can easily use when you're posing for photos that keep you in character and make you a good time to be around at the convention. If you decide to play up autistic stereotypes, you're just a jerk. Don't do that. If you're playing a blind character, again, make sure it's a character that is identifiable without a white cane, because guess what? You don't need a white cane, and it's extremely offensive if you're using one when you don't need it. Hearing aids, all of it, guys, all of it, everything. And DID characters, people with dissociative identity disorder, have been through enough trauma without people basically going around making fun of them for the horrific mental illness that they're going through. And it even extends to amputee characters. This one I see a lot at anime cons because you get people dressing as characters from like Trigun and Full Metal Alchemist. Very good shows, very good characters, but again, you can identify Edward from Full Metal Alchemist and you can identify Vash from Trigun very easily without using a fake prosthetic limb. You can easily tell by the way their hair looks, by the way their coats look, who that person is if you are aware of the series from which they come. Again, as long as you make sure that the rest of the look is put together well and looks as correct as possible, people will know who you are. So hopefully, if you are excited to cosplay a character who happens to be disabled, now this helped you ensure that you're not going to be accidentally hurting the disabled community in doing so. Like I said, there is absolutely nothing wrong with cosplaying as a disabled character if you are not disabled yourself. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. In fact, it's very beneficial because, as I said before, Hollywood notices. They pay attention to things like Comic-Cons more than you would think, especially things like San Diego Comic-Con that are huge and world famous. So by seeing people cosplaying regularly, multiple people as disabled characters, we're more likely to get more representation in the future, and that will help destigmatize being disabled in the world. Wonderful thing. Just make sure that you are not upsetting people. And one last note on this subject, there's a couple of instances you may encounter when it comes to this kind of thing. One is, well, I heard a disabled person online say that they don't really mind it. Remember that we are not a monolith. Some people might not mind it, it might not bother them. Everyone is different in every community. However, a majority of disabled people I know, including myself, would prefer that you don't use devices that you do not need that are meant for disabled people if you're playing as a disabled character, please. When in doubt, if you even see 2 people who are offended by it, just don't do it. It's better to just not do it and not hurt anybody than try to do your best guess and end up harming someone without meaning to. And the final note is, if you're not sure whether or not something that you have created that is not technically an adaptive device, but maybe you are playing as a disabled character and you're just trying to make something a little prettier that kind of alludes to what that character uses, and you're like, is it offensive or not? Places like TikTok, Facebook groups for disabled people, anything like that, online forums and stuff, Tumblr blogs, ask a disabled person if it's offensive, or put out a general question that is public that the disabled community can easily access and answer themselves, and then you'll learn from that. Always talk to the people that could end up offended by something that you're doing to ensure that you're not offending them. But that is all I've got for today. Hopefully that helped you feel a little more educated. I wanted to do this gently because it's understandable that we get pissed off about this stuff sometimes. Like, you do get tired of rehashing the same things day after day and having to walk people through why pretending to be something that you're not isn't okay. But I do know that some people may be doing this for their first time right now and just not thinking about it because they don't happen to be disabled. So hopefully you learned. Hopefully this helps you. And if you know any cosplayers that you're friends with that maybe are going to be dressed as a disabled character, maybe you should share this video so that they can learn something too. But since Comic-Con season is here, have fun, have a good time, and do something that makes you happy as long as you're not hurting anybody.